I am honored to present this year's Canadian Hillman Prize to the joint efforts of the Toronto Star's Rachel Mendleson and Hamilton Spectator's Steve Buist. The prize goes to Unchartered, an expertly crafted, full-throated, original, and exhaustive investigation that doubles as a much-needed refresher in civics. Unchartered uncovered and amplified the ongoing flouting by law enforcement officers of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Remember that? The Charter became part of our Constitution in 1982. It was written and adopted to protect Canadians from unlawful search and seizure, detainment, and police brutality. The Charter does far more than just that, but for our purposes tonight, it is Section 7 to 14 legal rights that were pulled into the spotlight by Rachel and Steve and their team. The journalists started by looking into thousands of criminal cases involving police behaviors to find cases where officers were found to have violated the Charter. The reporting, including the compiled video evidence shared in Unchartered, is an absolute gut punch. Unlawful strip searches, driving while Black or Indigenous or poor, unlawful entry into homes. It was all happening across the country within police forces, large and small. Rachel, Steve, and their team set out to find out if, in the many cases of Charter violations being uncovered in courtrooms across the country, anything was being done about it. Were officers facing consequences for their actions? Was violations of the Charter a systemic problem in Canadian policing? What were the broader implications of a Charter that had been rendered flaccid? One obvious consequence: those committing crimes were walking free. Another consequence: innocent people were finding themselves in unimaginable situations. The reporters found that some officers violated the Charter as a matter of course. It's just what they did, violating the Charter multiple times without consequence. Drugs and guns were being discounted as evidence. Prosecutions were being thrown out. Many police forces were approached by the investigative team. They refused to acknowledge any problems in their ranks. Police officers were simply not being disciplined in the face of the egregious Charter violations being found in courtrooms across the country. The stonewalling and secrecy from forces across Canada did not stop this team from continuing to dig deeper, enlisting the help of academics and lawyers and finding the data on which their reporting was built, story after story, statistic after statistic. When we set out to adjudicate the Hillman Prize, myself and Bonnie and Neil examine each facet of each story. We sometimes see things differently and bring new considerations and perspectives to the process. It's like holding a gem up to the light. It's the ones that bounce light and truth in directions we as individuals might not have thought of that keep us considering and reconsidering. Unchartered did just that. We saw the strength of the reporting from a myriad of perspectives, and that's kind of what you want with a prize like this. At a time when police scrutiny is becoming more robust, this reporting still managed to surprise us. I was shocked. I had a teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Warner. He had like these real hippie vibes. His hair was a little long. His brown coat was always crumpled up. He taught a course called Man in Society in high school. And I remember him saying that for some of us, and he looked in the back to all the bad kids, that our 2-month deep dive into the Charter of Rights and Freedoms would be the kind of learning that we would take with us into adulthood. We'd need to know it. It will mean something later on. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, it means something to me later on, and I wasn't one of those kids in the back, and it should mean something to you. Look at us now, Mr. Warner, talking about civics. Congratulations to Rachel Mendleson of the Toronto Star and Steve Buist of the Hamilton Spectator and their team.
Thank you so much to the Sidney Hillman Foundation for this incredible honor. I have to say that I was stunned when Alex called to tell me that we'd won. There's so much journalism in Canada being done in the public good, and so much of it is worthy of recognition. It's especially humbling to be honored tonight alongside our colleagues from Radio Canada and the team from Global News and APTN. Your work is inspiring. This was kind of a crazy project. I would like to say that when we set out from the beginning, we intended to find 600 serious charter breach cases and then reach out to all the police forces and find out whether they knew about the charter breaches and what they'd done to discipline the officers involved. But the truth is we didn't really know what we had or how big it would get until we started digging. The editors of the Star's investigations team, David Bruiser and Jesse McLean, brought us together to work on this back in the dark pandemic days of early 2021. Steve had been seconded to the Star's I team from the Hamilton Spectator. He'd covered a case at the Spec involving a man who had spent 8 years in jail unnecessarily because the search warrant that led the police to find the evidence against him should never have been authorized. Steve learned that Hamilton police had no idea how many times that cases had fallen apart after the courts had found serious problems with their search warrants, and he had started pulling on that thread. Around the same time, I was looking into similar questions around excessive force cases. A source had told me about a charter case in Ottawa where a police officer admitted on the stand that he wasn't aware that he'd already been found to have breached the charter rights of an accused because no one had told him about the judge's ruling. And he said that there was no process in the Ottawa Police Service to inform officers about what happened after they testified in cases. We got the transcript of that cross-examination, and we decided to take a long, hard look at this apparent lack of communication between the courts and police. It really did take a very long time. So the first step, of course, was to find the charter breach cases, and then we had to go to the police forces and ask them whether they knew about it. And thankfully, although there was a lot of secrecy, as you would expect, few were forthcoming, and you saw that Toronto Police did admit that they were unaware of 100 of the cases that we found, 100 of the 600. So that was pretty significant. A few of the other police forces were also similarly forthcoming, and so we were able to sort of prove our thesis that was first kind of presented to us in that cross-examination transcript. Our editors, David and Jesse, were enthusiastic about this story right from the very beginning, and they were heavily involved in every step. They both know a ton about police and the courts and possess eagle eyes that are trained to spot reporting holes, facts that need to be shored up, and words in the copy that don't mean what you think they mean. Thank you both for the care and thought you put into these stories, even when it meant reading very long and boring court decisions one more time to make sure we didn't screw anything up, which by some miracle, I don't think we did. The online presentation, though, was what really brought this project to life. We're so grateful to our video editor, Kelsey Wilson, and the team that put together the powerful special build for this project. That includes Tanya Pereira, our digital producer, Cameron Tulk, the graphics editor, and Nathan Pilla, who did the design and the web development. We also just wanted to thank so many of the people who contributed along the way, some of whom are here tonight, including the Star's genius data analyst, Andy Bailey. Shout out for Andy. Andy ensured that we kept a handle on our wildly expansive spreadsheets. Our brilliant lawyer, Emma Carver, who fielded panicked phone calls. Where's Emma? There she is. She fielded panicked phone calls before our court appearances, and I hope this is okay to say, ghost wrote our applications to access the video evidence of the stunning police brutality that we were able to publish for the first time as part of this project. And we also wanted to thank Sunil Gurmukh and his students at Western Law School who contributed case law research. I just want to say the name of the project. his hidden racial profiling project. So he contributed many cases that ended up in our database. So thank you so much, Sunil. And we want to thank the STAR's senior leaders, including Jordan Bitove, our owner, editor-in-chief Anne-Marie Owens, and managing editor Nicole McIntyre for believing in this story and for giving us the time and space to pursue this project and for playing it so big. I can say I feel so lucky to work at a newspaper that's so committed to doing expensive investigative journalism that's in-depth and that creates change. And Jordan, we are so very grateful that you won us in the divorce. And Steve had said that he didn't want to say anything, but this was his last big project before retirement, so I thought that he might want to say something. Sorry to put you on the spot, Steve.
All I can say is you won't have me to kick around anymore. And yes, retirement is great.